Okay, council, it's 7 o'clock. Will everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the meeting to order. The first item is roll call. Please vote, everybody. Oops. Ms. Lawson?
All counselors present, with the exception of Counselor Griego and Counselor Carson, whose absences are both excused.
Okay, thank you. That brings us to the next item on the agenda. The next item on the agenda is citizen comments. This is the portion of the approval, agenda approval. Counselor Vihil.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to approve the agenda as presented, excusing Mr. Carson and Mr. Grego from the meeting, as well as making sure that Ms. Hensley is here. I don't know if she hit the button over here.
Yes.
But
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, please start voting. Now it's working, everybody? Okay, good.
The motion carried unanimously.
Okay, thank you. That brings us to the next item on the agenda, citizen comments. This is the segment of the agenda where if we have anyone in the audience or on Zoom who would like to make a comment, we do ask that you keep your comments to within 3 minutes. We have comment cards that we acknowledge. At this time, I don't have any comment cards or anyone in the audience who would like to make any comments, so we'll go ahead. And if you don't mind, Ms. Lawson, give instructions to the participants on Zoom of how they can raise their hand.
If you're on the Zoom app and you'd like to speak for audience comment, you can use the raise your hand feature in the bottom of your screen. Or if you are on the telephone, you can dial *9 and it'll raise your hand as well.
Okay, I don't see any hands raised. So we'll go ahead and close this segment of the agenda and move on down to consent calendar A. Councilor Vihil.
Mayor, I move that we approve consent calendar A.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, please start voting.
The motion carried unanimously.
Awesome, thank you. That brings us to the next item on the agenda. Let's see here. Regular business brought forward by city staff. Second reading and public hearing for ordinance number 10-2023. Thank you, Ms. James.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I apologize.
No worries.
So this is our second reading of ordinance number 10-20-2023. This was the conversation we had at our last meeting about the to-go alcohol sales. So this is separate from liquor stores. This is separate from breweries. This is separate from restaurants that serve alcohol. This is simply gas stations, grocery stores that have carry to-go alcohol. And so this stemmed from the Family Dollar Needs and Desires hearing, where we discussed that it was very close to the Goal Academy and to the Boys and Girls Club. So at the direction of council, after our last discussion on this topic, we did talk to the executive director of the Boys and Girls Club about their teen center. And so the front of the teen center, the arcade portion, is open to the public and there is not adult supervision. But the rear portion is full-time adult supervision, and it's the same level of interaction and care as they have at the Boys and Girls Club. They generally have the number of the 14 students or more, and it qualifies as a large childcare center. So no matter what, the downtown arcade center, even though it's just an arcade, it's adjacent to the childcare center, so it does count. So all of your maps have been updated to reflect that. Both map options are here with the 1,000-foot buffer and the 500-foot buffer, just so that we can see what it looks like. Staff is recommending a 500-foot buffer. And then no other parts of the ordinance were changed. So it's just amending how far you can be from other to-go liquor stations, and making sure that the Boys and Girls Club and both their downtown location and their location on 285 meet our large childcare center, and that there's a separation requirement from them.
Okay, so what we'll do at this time is we'll open up the public hearing for the second reading of ordinance number 10-2023, an ordinance amending the Unified Development Code to provide for and regulate an accessory use for the sale of prepackaged alcohol at certain establishments. If we have anyone in the audience who would like to make any comments at this time, please come up to the podium. I don't see anyone in the audience coming up to the podium, so we'll go to the Zoom participants. If we have anyone on Zoom, if you would use the raise your hand feature so that we could recognize you and allow you to speak at this public hearing, please do so at this time. Ms. Lawson, I don't see any hands raised or anyone in the Zoom, so we'll go ahead and close this public hearing, bring it back to council. Councilor Vio.
Mayor, I move that we approve on second reading ordinance number 10-2023.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Not?
We do.
I
Mayor.
have
Oh,
discussion.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. The ordinance, is it set for 500 feet or 1,000 feet?
Good question.
It was written at 500 and that was what was approved on first reading, but you could obviously change that on second reading if you wanted to.
Thank you. I was just looking for clarification. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, everybody's good. Motion second. No further discussion. Please start voting. Ms. Lawson,
The motion carried unanimously.
thank you. Thank you. That brings us to the next item on the agenda, resolution number 11-2023. Is that you too?
That's
James?
me.
Okay,
It's not as bad as last time, I promise.
no worries.
So this is a really exciting moment for downtown Alamosa and Alamosa in general. So we've gotten to the point where we have so many art programs. So we have our Artscape program, we have our Arts Festival, we have all of the art vendors that are downtown for First Fridays. We have, a fair number of artists that work downtown. This is a larger project than downtown, but it is also vital for downtown. And it's a conversation that stems from the downtown plan itself, where it mentioned that we should pursue becoming a Colorado Creative District. So the weird thing about the Colorado Creative District designation is you can't apply, they have to invite you. And the way they invite you is you establish yourself as a creative district. And we're already doing so much of it, sort of the things I've already listed, and then a lot of the things that are privately happening, all the things a college does. An arts district is also not just visual arts, it's performance arts and music and all of those great things. There's a pretty good argument in my office about how Early Iron really is an arts festival. And so we've always had sort of a volunteer group that serves as the art committee, and they help pick the pieces or recommend pieces for council to make sure they meet the requirements. And they've always been a volunteer, and it's been pretty informal. And we're suggesting that if we're going to aggressively pursue getting this Colorado Creative District started, we really need a formal committee that's in charge of it. And so staff is requesting we create a new committee by resolution, and it would be our Colorado Creative, or the City of Alamosa's Colorado Creative District Committee. And so they would spearhead this and guide it, and with staff as their contact, they would help us achieve that designation. And so there are positives that go with the designation beyond the designation itself. So you get the cool signs, but there's a one-time $10,000 award. We can use the funding that's already part of our art program, and we can use the same staff resources we're already using. And we'd meet all the requirements. So it helps get Alamosa as a destination for the arts. It helps brighten our downtown. This group would also work to establish the boundaries of the creative district. And we're thinking it would go majority, it would include the campus, it would include all of the art parts of Alamosa. And that'd be like an ongoing discussion, and then it would go to council. So there's a lot of really exciting things, but we need to formalize it and go beyond just having volunteers and have a real committee and take the next step.
And the only thing I would add is this was discussed, obviously, since it came out of the downtown plan by our Main Street Committee. And this is their recommendation to council as well.
We thought about sharing it, Main Street Committee doing both, but because, you know, some of them aren't really that involved in the arts, we feel like it's better to have a dedicated arts committee. That's the end of my presentation.
Awesome. Counselor Daniel.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're
Thank-
welcome.
Thank you, Rachel and Heather, for that. My question is, would we think about having a arts council member, a creative council member also on the Main Street Committee? So like, I know there's one that comes on this one I see, but would we amend our Main Street Committee to have a creative arts person on the Main Street Committee? So that way there's the both and. happening?
So Elizabeth has already volunteered and so has Aaron Keck. So both the chamber and Visit Alamosa want to be part of the arts committee.
Okay.
So that's kind of already taken care of. I don't know if you'd want a different member from Main Street.
I would just want it to be formalized that we also have an art person on the Main Street Committee. So
Okay.
that way we're sure, not that the staff wouldn't make that communication, but I think just like moving forward as we go, that perspective is on both of the committees, not just one.
Yeah, so I think it's easy enough. We've modified the Main Street Committee. Or no, we've modified the homeless, but we can modify the Main Street to add a representative from the creative district.
I think I would feel like that reciprocity makes some sense to me.
Okay. Counselor Vihil,
Mayor, thank you.
welcome.
I move that we approve resolution number 11-2023.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, please start voting. Ms. Lawson?
The motion carried unanimously.
Okay, great. That brings us to the next item on the agenda. Request for building permit fee waiver for Alamosa County.
You're almost done with me, I promise. So the county is building a garage for their facilities maintenance department on Lava Lane. And they have requested that we waive the building permit fees for this. We've done it historically in the past. We've waived a roof fee a couple of years for them, which actually ended up being in their jurisdiction, so we didn't need to waive it, which was an oversight on staff's part. But the $2,005.90 fees for this project, we just feel like it's a good faith partnership gesture towards the county and all the things that we do. We serve the same constituency, so we're requesting a fee waiver this evening, and it can only be approved by council.
Okay, Counselor Vihil.
Mayor, in good faith and the good relationship that we have with the county, I move that we waive the building permit fee for the utility building for the county in the cost of $2,005.90.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Counselor Daniel?
Thank you, Mayor.
Welcome.
So would this, like, will there be tap fees and other fees that they may need to have waived or anything like that? This is the only fee. Okay, thank you.
Okay, all right, we have a motion and a second. And no further discussion, please start voting. Ms. Lawson?
The motion carried unanimously.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. That brings us to the next item on the agenda, the second reading and public hearing for ordinance number 9-2023.
Thank you, Mayor. This is an ordinance that approves a franchise for the next 10 years for Spectrum Pacific West LLC, which is Charter Communications, and their cable franchise. As we discussed at your last meeting on first reading, it is substantially similar to the prior franchise that we have had in place for the last 10 years with Charter. One of the main differences is the removal of the office downtown. As we discussed, we, as staff, had pushed pretty hard trying to get them to do that. They had removed that even under the last franchise agreement before it expired. And we ended up with a compromise that is less than an office downtown, but at least is cost-free means of people returning their cable equipment. Other than that, I don't have much to add to what we had at first reading unless council has any questions.
Okay,
Question.
Counselor Vihil?
Just a question on the ways people can get rid of their equipment. How does that work? And will we be able to inform the public on how to do that?
So ideally, what Charter would like is if we had a mail service like FedEx store or something like that, that people could take it there and that gets boxed and sent in, but we don't have that. So in the absence of whoever their provider is having a location here, because they have it at other places, other communities, then a box can be sent to the individual and they can pack it up and send it in, type of situation. At no cost. We wanted to make it as convenient as possible in addition to the no cost, because obviously driving 2 hours to a FedEx store or something like that just isn't feasible.
Okay. Okay, so we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing for ordinance number 9-2023. If we have anyone in the audience, will you please come up to the podium and make your comments? We don't see anyone in the audience, so we'll go ahead and go to Zoom. We have any Zoom participants who would like to make any comments in the public hearing? Please raise your hand by hitting the raise your hand feature. I don't see any hands raised, Ms. Lawson, so we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to council. Councilor Vio.
Mayor, I move that we approve on second reading ordinance number 9-2023.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, please start voting.
The motion carried unanimously.
That brings us to the next item on the agenda. Committee reports. Do we have anyone with any committee reports? Councilor Daniel?
Thank you, Mayor. I did not attend the Housing Authority last month, but I did want to give everyone an update. They are planning a retreat and some really good evaluation with their board and their staff. And they're doing a survey and some really good development, I think. And so I'm really looking forward to what that retreat is going to look like for them and the outcomes that they'll get from that.
Thank you, Councilor Daniel. Okay, no other committee reports. We'll go ahead and go to staff announcements.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. As Rachel works her way up, because we had someone request an update on the short-term rentals. So we've got a brief presentation for that. I did want to remind council that the employee barbecue is next week, Thursday, July 13th at 5 o'clock at the golf course. And so that's the only other staff update. And let me get this open and we'll get it ready for you, Rachel.
This is a very brief update on short-term rentals. So this was part of our discussion when we were talking about code amendments to the UDC. Wanted to know how these regulations are actually playing out. So we passed the regulations officially on April 20th of 2022 after 5 months of work sessions. New license are $750, renewals are $300. They expire at the end of every year. As of 2022, we had 6 new licenses, 37 renewed, and the fees were $4,500. The fees were a lot lower because a lot of the fees in the first year were waived, because if you'd already been registered, you didn't pay the first year. And so 2023, we have 39 renewed, 42 total, and our income this year is 18,000. And so this goes into our dedicated housing fund to make sure that we can continue to work on housing projects.
One question, Rachel, and I hate to put you on the spot, but I know the map that you all created is each part of town at the limit?
No. There's only mostly the areas near the college and north of Maine are full, but there's plenty of opportunities on the south side of town and opportunities on the west side of town.
Cool. Thank you.
And the map is updated every time we get a new license, so it's still live. And so when people request it, they get all of the application packet and the map as well, so they can look that up. And obviously staff does it for them as well.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so very much. Ms.
And that's
Brooks.
all we have from the staff update.
Okay, all right. That brings us to our council comments. Councilor Cribs and then Councilor Hensley.
So
And then
short.
Counselor Daniel.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to comment that I attended the CML conference last week, and congratulations to Ty and Liz for their accomplishments
Thank you.
of reaching their goal that I hope to someday hit, but very looking from afar at this point. But it was very educational for me as a brand new counselor. And so I took it to heart, and I'll probably have a lot of ideas I'll be pestering people with in the future. So thank you for unleashing me on that.
Thank you, Counselor Griffiths. You, Counselor Hensley, and then Counselor Daniel.
To carry on with the CML, like every year, there's always so much I learned from that conference. So there was great sessions. It was very well done. And I want to thank the rest of you for being so supportive again. And so I am on CML Executive Board for another 2 years. So I'm very proud to be able to represent Alamosa, but also rural Colorado and the San Luis Valley. So I'm excited for that. So thanks again for your support. I want to thank everybody in the back row. Great job for 4th of July. The weekend was phenomenal. I know all of you and your teams worked super hard. It felt like everything, I mean, obviously there's always things behind the scenes that may not be perfect, but boy, it was just a really good one. I felt like there's a really good turnout from our community, things like that. The weather was great. So anyway, just great 4th of July, and thanks to everybody and your staff for all you do to make our city shine.
Thank you, Counselor Hensley. Counselor Daniel,
Thank you, Mayor.
you're welcome.
Mine is also about CML. Go figure. We all did. No, I just really wanted to say I was able to talk to some town council members in another community who don't budget the way that we budget and don't have the funds for all of their council members to go, or even anyone on their council to go. And I think that's a huge detriment to what they could learn, especially as a small community, to get that support and things from that conference. And so I just wanted to say thank you for the budgeting that we get to do and the ability for us to attend, because I think it is a super valuable conference, and the networking we get to do with other communities, but also the kind of advice and education we get is superb. And so I just really wanted to say thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Daniel. Okay, since I don't see any other lights on, I'll just wrap things up. I would like to congratulate Counselor Hensley again for being reelected to the CML board. All of the city staff and council members, we all wore real bright color shirts to show our support, because her slogan was Liz Hensley will bring in a bright future. So it was really good for us to work together as a team, and I really appreciate that, everyone. Also, I'd like to thank all the council members and our city staff who showed up in huge numbers. The good thing about going to CML, you'll find out a lot about a lot of other cities, and you find out about how we compare when we're looking at some of the things they do. And I must tell our entire team that we're ahead of a lot of communities that are the same size as ours, and some that we're ahead of some that are a lot larger than ours. So keep up the great work you're doing. I really appreciate learning all those different things at CML. Also would like to thank all of the staff who participated in your teams for your hard work in the 4th of July parade and festivities. Even last night, that was an awesome firelight display show, and we had staff there and at the parade. So all of you, and Brandon's back there, he was one of the lead people in charge of the parade, making sure that it went smoothly and everybody stayed on pace. So it took all of the efforts. I know everybody's looking at Brandon now like IT had something to do with it too, but yes, he did. He did. So thank you for that. And then last but not least, I don't know if you all look at your emails. I don't usually look at mine, but I got like a really exciting wow email this afternoon from our city manager saying, hey, by the way, Roy and I got married. So let's please join me in congratulating Heather and Roy on being married. All right. So we're going to end on a good note. This meeting is adjourned, everybody. Thank you. Congratulations.